Virgin. Bitch. Podcast. Inspiring women to overcome social stereotypes and share unique life experiences without fear of being defiantly different. Your hosts, Christopher and Heather. Let's talk, shall we?
Here we go. Heather and I are blessed. Our guest today has been on our wish list for many, many years. She's one of those rare individuals who can take you down the rabbit hole of really deep thought, yet all the while keep you giggling with the joy of discovering new things about life and about yourself. She's a clinical psychologist, author, podcaster, and a sought-after global speaker, renowned for her ability to help humans reconnect to their good. We welcome Dr. Jody Carrington to Virgin Beauty Bitch.
This is a dream, Virgin Beauty Bitchers. This is so good. Oh my gosh. Come on. We met you're right. This has just been divine intervention to get this pulled together because it's been years.
Absolutely. The thread never left us.
Oh,
now,
so nice.
Now, Jody, it seems like, a lifetime ago, it seems like now, the pandemic forced us to really appreciate the necessity of human connection. But 5 short years later, the world is on fire again with global conflict, ancient hates, and threats of war. How can people hold faith in connection when dissonance and this conflict seems to be the human trait that media, at least, encourages as our default?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really the thing that we're all up against the most in this human race. And I think what is fascinating in times of overwhelm, which is really marked, if we take the pandemic, I think it sort of expedited the process significantly, but we were well on our way prior to the pandemic in this sort of, I think, loneliness epidemic. The introduction of the smartphone was 2006, introduction of the forward-facing camera in 2009, and the technological advances that we are a part of in this generation is beautiful to witness in so many ways. But the hard part about us as humans is that there's 2 rules, okay? The first rule is we're neurobiologically wired for connection. Okay, so whoever made us, regardless of age, race, religion, socioeconomic status, or gender identity, we all start in exactly the same place. We all end in exactly the same spot. Race is a social construct. So our DNA on this globe, in this human race, is 99.98% the same. If you disconnect from an infant, they die. So what we will never automate is relationship. So I don't care how much we get good at the AI, we are neurobiologically wired for connection. You disconnect from an infant, they die. We will never, ever. And from a therapeutic perspective, as you can get as many bots as you want, there is a synergistic change that happens when 2 people are in the same room that you will never be able to automate, because at a cellular level, we will not be able to recreate that. Okay, ever. So if you want your business to be successful or your family system to be better, you'll understand that the only AI that's going to matter in this next generation is authentic interaction. Okay, so that's rule number 1. We are neurobiologically wired for connection. Now, as a curveball, whoever created us humans sort of like shook it up a little and said the second rule is, despite the fact that I've made you neurobiologically wired for connection, the hardest thing you will ever do is look at each other. So we are up against it in this place where we need each other desperately. Those of us are the most well and the healthiest, have community, have connection, are brave enough to continue to look into the eyes of the people we love the most, even when, and especially when it's the hardest. Yet the hardest thing we will ever do is look at each other. And we've never had so many opportunities to look away. And when we stop looking, we stop seeing. And when the world continues to evoke uncertainty, fear, and no end in sight, what happens is our gaze goes inward, not to each other. And the only way that we are going to survive any conflict is you have to do it in relationship and in connection. So the divisiveness that is the overwhelm of this world, we're sort of in this perfect spot right now to see, people ask me all the time as a psychologist, are we in a mental health crisis? Because we are killing ourselves faster for the first time in history from emotional illness than we are dying from physical illness for the first time in history. Yet we've never had this much access to resources or research. And so levels of anxiety and depression, we've never seen this high, particularly in our country, in North America. Suicide, ridiculous rates. And so what's fascinating to me is I think we're focusing on the wrong thing. So I don't think we're in a mental health crisis. I think we're in an understandable human response to a loneliness epidemic. Because remember, we are neurobiologically wired for connection. And this stat gets me every time. So our great grandparents, it's estimated that our great grandparents looked at their children 72% more of the time than we look at our babies today. So if this is what people are coming to the table with, if this is what our educators, our police officers, our leaders are experiencing, is a paucity of connection, our ability to lead well has not been thwarted. We're all still beautiful humans. Our access to the best parts of ourselves has been significantly compromised by this massive influx, which is massive business, by the way. The great big four, if I were just take them, Uber, Amazon, Meta, and Apple, they own a $8.49 trillion market share capitalization, which means the idea to automate the land, to get you to get things delivered on Amazon and Uber Eats, and to stay home from people because you're inundated all day long by your notifications on your Apple Watch and by your email. Just stay home. Okay, we're like, yes, please. I hate people. I still want to be invited. I just want to throat punch everybody. Right? Like, it's all of us. You know what I mean? And we should be tired because we're like this. We got shots of cortisol happening every day that our parents never did. Our dads came through the door at the end of the day and nobody could get them. Can you imagine that? Now we don't even pee, and we have. In the morning, we haven't even peed yet, and we've checked our email. We've taken a rip around all of our social media. We know exactly which bitches are getting family pictures, who's worked out, who got the collagen. You know, and you haven't even peed. And then the Team Snap bitches, because I have 3 kids, are connected to my watch, and so they're all buzzing me and everything because I didn't bring my kid the right shirt and shit. And like that, they have so much access to us before we even pee that we're just not designed for this much noise.
Who
I don't even know what your question was.
Who in the end does this serve? I mean, it sounds like the imminent battle of nature versus nurture. So nature has prepared us for connection. Nurture seems to be pulling us apart and separating us.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if it's nurture particularly. I think it's like the world, the access to expediting process. We come from a generation when the world was much slower that really emphasized hustle, that really didn't want us to sleep, right? And so I remember this very much from my dad. I just lost my dad to dementia. We buried him 2 months ago.
So sorry.
And thank you. And I really loved so much about this guy because he, I think, created my work ethic. And, you know, he was super successful, came from zero and just built this beautiful empire that my brother and I sort of got a front row seat of watching how you make business work and how everything was based on a handshake. And, you know, he was such a cool dude. And he was so committed to like working so hard and playing so hard. And I remember him coming up the stairs in our house, like on the farm. And like, I would jump off the couch so fast if I could hear him, because I knew there was going to be like, what are you doing? Like, you're lazy. And the truth is like that was true because you only had 8 to 10 hours in a day to get shit done. Cause that's when you could have access to people. And then, you know, you had to make hay while the sun rose or shone. And that in one generation has changed so much. And so what we don't have as much time for now is rest, but we're filled with these bodies that suggest if you slow down, particularly as in anybody who's experienced marginalization at any capacity, you know, has to work that much harder. So the idea is now you don't rest. And so what we're seeing is a loneliness epidemic and burnout of higher levels than ever. 1 in 2 would identify as being burnout across industry and organization in our country right now. And that's significant.
I really resonate with what you're saying when it comes to the hustle culture, because it feels like my generation of millennials, hustle culture, you know, women getting ahead. The only way that women can get ahead is if you're in the top 40, under 40 kind of deal. And I love that actually with the next generation, with the Zoomers, they're denouncing hustle culture. They're like, you know what? I actually do need to have a rest. How much they're doing it is probably questionable because they're all doing dance moves on TikToks and making money off of it, which, hey, all the power to you. If you're having fun while making some money, go for it, girl. But I want to bring it back to like where you started, which was, you know, all of these kind of major conglomerates that are emerging almost as world leaders with those big four in the tech world, you know, purposefully driving people apart, and knowing that part of like our human condition, uh, you know, that we do all face different levels of insecurity or feeling dismissed, gaslit, shamed. So I'm just so interested with your work when it comes to reframing some of these deeper insecure questions that especially women ask themselves, but all genders ask themselves at different points of their day or their life or their month. You know, you've really shifted things from that internal voice saying, what's wrong with you, to what happened to you. And so I was wondering if you could unpack that for our listeners, because I think that that's really a special thing.
Yeah, I love that. So I think I told you this, but I worked at the Alberta Children's Hospital for 10 years. So that was my first job when I became a psychologist. So the hitters, the kickers, the biters, those are my babies. I love them, right? And what we were taught in any healthcare profession, or when we're really trying to sort of figure out how to be helpful, is to ask that question, what's wrong here? And Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey wrote a book of the same title where they switched the focus from not what is wrong here, because it's like they got the ADHD, this one's a narcissist, what's going on with this person? Like we're trying to label all the things. But the question then becomes, what happened here? And when you switch that perspective to what is wrong with this one, to what happened with this one, it evokes in us human connected, undeniable human connection, this thing called empathy. And when I start to sort of understand what is going on with what happened to you, it gives me some permission to take a step back and get back to my good. Because when I'm overwhelmed and exhausted and dysregulated, I lose access to the best parts of myself, not my ability to be great, but my access to it. And so if we think about the fact that we're in one generation, we live in bigger houses, far more single parent households, less siblings, less access to grandparents or grandparent-like figures. Many of us are working at least part-time from home. The capacity to be regulated in community has been significantly compromised, which means access to the best parts of ourselves has also been compromised, because the only way you get back there is when people walk you through it. And it always comes back to me for this Ram Dass quote. I'm sure I shared it with you when we saw each other years ago. He said this, and he said, "We are all just here walking each other home." And that is the impetus to everything that I do when I get the opportunity to speak to a community or at the United Nations, or, all of these opportunities I've seen over this last 10 years has been so awesome, and it never changes. Nobody gets out of here alive. There's no need to get to the end fast, right? Why would you want to do that? We're just walking each other home. Give me the best you can with what you got on any given day. And you're not that good. You will not single-handedly be able to undo racism. You are not good enough to just make your babies be the best they can be. All I need you to do is give me the next best right kind thing. And when we give ourselves permission, to say, I say this all the time right now, it's the title of the next book, I think, is you're not that good. And it's not a criticism, it's a liberation. Because we really need to come back here, which is the most longest standing data, okay, across every religion, across every spiritual practice, across every ancient teaching that has ever been a part of the generations that have come before us. The idea to come back to stillness and quiet, to understand that at a cellular level, that's where the answers live. And we've never been more far from it than we are in this moment. Not because I think the likes of Amazon or Uber or Steve Jobs are trying to destroy humans. I think it is just such a sexy, lucrative business that there's no other, that's what's taking over, right? Not an evil attempt to destroy humanity. I just think business is business, and they're like, look at this, huh? And when the hardest thing you will ever do is look at each other, it's never been easier to monetize it.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, economy seems to be superseding humanity.
Always in the history of the free world, that has remained true, right? Like if I take you back to any major war, any major crucifixion, It's always been about what is the financial, how do we look after our people to the best of the financial gain so that we can give the richest the rich, or our community the best, or our tribe the better. And this is just what's happening. And again, right? Like there's the sentiment again and again, the rich get richer in this place, because when you start to monetize things that are so, that people just desperately feel as though they need, right? The beauty industry in particular. There was this data yesterday I was reading. John Haidt talks about this. He wrote The Anxious Generation. He said there's this like astronomically horrific data where teenage girls will, if they delete 6 or 7 selfies of themselves, up will pop a beauty ad. So it's triggered to know that I'm not liking how I look in this moment. So, I mean, I have a 12-year-old daughter, and the Sephora conversations are fucking relentless. Okay. And that's how I maintain a relationship. I'm like, you bet, let's go to Sephora. And I'm encouraging it. She got more Sol de Janeiro than your average, So I'm just trying to stay connected to her. And she says Sol de Janeiro is the way to her heart. So I'm all in. And I'm perpetuating the idea that a 12-year-old needs 15,000 bottles of body spray. Huh? It's exhausting. What do we do? Right? That's the question.
I love what you're saying for the concept of that new book, because I mean, we're almost relentlessly told with, self-affirmations, I would say one of the most common self-affirmations is I am enough, and it's ad nauseum. And so to flip it all on its head, to make sure that it's like, okay, can we just understand that both sides of that, I am enough or I'm not enough, is still ego. So like, let's just cut that up for a second.
I'm in. And so like we're shopping this right now with our literary agent in the US, who I just freaking adore. And it's like we can say, so Glennon and Abby have long talked about like you can do hard things, but the question is like, do you fucking have to all the time? And like then the idea is like, let them. Should you, Mel, who I adore, right? Let them. Are you fucking kidding me? No, you do not let them. No, thank you. There is a time. And the imposter phenomenon, I also think really needs to be challenged, because we're like, we've spent so many times coding the ego around the fact like, no, it's just an imposter. Like you are supposed to be here. No, you're fucking not. Sometimes you should feel like you're out of your lane when you're at the beginning of your career. When you start anything new, you shouldn't be good at this. And as a leader in today, building a business right now, nobody's got a script for this. So should you feel like an imposter? Yes, because you are. So you're not that good. Like our job is to get in there and just do the next best right kind thing. And so when you consider that we need a reckoning for the brilliant, for the broken, for the bone tired, now is the time that we need to do that. And we need to do that in community.
I think that also leads into something you're very passionate about, rage. That beneath the burnout for many people, and I'm just going to dive in for women identified people currently, suppressed rage. That burnout isn't always about being too busy, but about feeling alone. So, and not being able to vocalize when you're angry about something, not being able to be real with your emotions. And one of the things Christopher said at one point, just owning your right to be right. That so many women will just let it be someone else's idea, or you got my order wrong, but it's okay. I'm just going to eat what you brought me. And that over time, that builds up into a very deep anger, into a rage. Mm-hmm. So would love to hear your thought with rage, burnout, and boundary repair.
Holy Christ. So just a small question.
Yeah, I know. That's all right. Just like in a nutshell, a bunch of your words.
Just loosely connected, if you could just put all those things together. So what came to mind is like I worked with a kid once who taught me this. She was 12. And she said, don't you know that mad is just sad's bodyguard?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I loved it. Yeah, she took my breath away. And I've never met a mad that wasn't sad.
Wow.
And burnout is not a function of the work you do or how much you have on your plate. There are people doing our work, people that are fighting for feminine understandings and ideals and the equality of humans around this planet right now in far worse circumstances than we can even contemplate. Okay. So burnout isn't a function of the work we do. It is a function of your ability or lack thereof to rest, to refuel, to have community. And oftentimes people who only have each other, that's all that they have is community. In fact, highest rate of suicide in this country is middle-aged white men. Okay. Those that are identified as the most privileged among us. If you are white, straight, able-bodied, and you have a penis, irrefutably, you will have access to the most resources. Okay. What you do with them is, I can go to toe to anybody who wants to talk about that any day. You have access to them. That exact same cohort, more than anybody else on this globe, is killing themselves at higher rates. Why? And the question often is, the answer, I'll tell you the answer real quick, is because we've taught boys, particularly white men, that boys don't cry. And anxiety and depression will not kill you. Not talking about it might. As a settler to this country, as a white woman, I never have walked into a room and looked for other white people to figure out whether I'm going to be safe or not. People of color, many marginalized humans, are looking for connection even in rooms that they walk into. That is not an experience particularly for white men. They are looking for competition. And so when that comes to the protection of the heart, the data would suggest that those who seem to be the most privileged among us have the least access to connected communities. That's what keeps us alive. And that's what we don't have access to now, right? So when you're a visible minority and you can pick somebody who looks like you, do we have the same cultural traditions? Immediately you're like, oh my God, Jim, where are you from? You have this connection. It's like, I mean, and I can maybe get this a little bit. Like if I'm touring in a foreign land and I see another Canadian flag, it's that same you don't even know if they're a psychopathic serial killer, but you don't want to hear it, right? Because you have that community or that connection, or at least that landing point, right? And so that's one of the conversations about why this becomes such an interesting conversation, because anxiety, depression will not kill you. They're just emotions, but not talking about it might. And women historically are much more equipped with an emotional language. Those who identify as women are much more equipped with an emotional language, not because, and listen, I have 2 sons and a daughter. This isn't about what you're born with. All of us have the same emotional capacity, but we are far better able with those who identify as women or our daughters of providing an emotional language, using emotional words, giving toys that evoke emotions that you can practice, nurturing babies, dolls, feeding, versus I'm going to shoot you with my hockey stick. And so it's in our bones. And I mean, I've written books about it, and still I very much watch myself and my partner with our boys versus our girls. I see a big difference, right? And I mean, I coach minor hockey in this little town. I heard this yesterday. Boys, you're skating like a girl. Holy shit. And so we think we're better at it, and we're not. So this idea of an emotional language community connection, I really think needs to be led by women, those who identify as women, not because we're any better or any worse, but because we have this one thing that the universe is going to need more than anything in this next generation. And that's the capacity to create community and connection.
That is so profound. I mean, Heather and I talk about these things all the time. What I don't get is this giving permission. Boys don't feel they have permission to emote. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How do we get them to understand they already have this capacity? How do we give them permission to do that?
We need people like you in positions to show them. So this podcast is a place, you can't tell anybody how to feel. You have to show them. You can't tell anybody how to be anti-racist or inclusive or kind. You have to show them. You have to create spaces where they watch you making it happen. So as a human of color, of a woman who can, sort of blow a podcast platform, the 2 of you together in this crazy space where you're blowing up the world, people are listening, yes, but they're watching. How do you do it? You did this. How do you navigate this? What are the conversations you're talking about? So I say this all the time. People ask me as a woman, oh my God, you're always on the road. Are you ever worried that you're screwing up your kids? Is this hard on your marriage? Yes, yes, and yes, and all the things. But I can't tell my kids how to be great. I have to show them. right? So we're in this first generation of women in particular where roles have never been so unclear. If you were born with a vagina a couple of generations ago, you very much knew exactly your plan, whether you wanted it or not, right? Okay. If you want to get a little silly, you might go to school for a year or two. But other than that, you're going to get back home and start making buns and having babies. Okay. Now, there is so much comfort in that in some ways, because you don't have to, this is the expectation. Zero freedom, lots of clarity. Now we're flipping that on its head, which comes with multiple freedoms, but no role clarity, which we're not really sure what to do with that, because as a woman, am I supposed to, okay, all right, so I can do all of these things, but also like, oh, you didn't come to the meeting. Oh. Yeah, and my children are equally as bad. Like this morning, I just had a knockdown shootout with my daughter. She's like, what? You're not coming to my dance on Friday? Do you know every mom is going to be at the dance on Friday? I was like, listen, I'm fairly sure I'm going to be in Chicago talking to a bunch of teachers about changing the world. Okay. So you can, if you would like me to talk to people about, but the expectation of can you do it all is certainly on us owners, and having conversations like you do every day on here about this is supposed to feel hard. This is supposed to, there's going to be pushback, and it doesn't mean we're doing it wrong.
Yeah. I want to ask you this. Of all the things you could have done with your life, how did you end up trying to save the world? Pretty much is what you're doing. Where did that come from?
Oh my God. I don't know if that's true. I think that the older I get, as I might have told you, I'm 50 now. I'm so interested in the universe. I'm so interested in soul contracts. I'm so interested in this being so much bigger than the rest of us. And in this lifetime, however that happened, I'm so privileged. I started on third base, white, straight, able-bodied. I had every opportunity to be surrounded by regulated people. And when I reflect on that in my moments of gratitude, the only thing that comes to me is I better fucking use it. So that's the motivation all the time, to be in a room of oil field workers or a bunch of men that I know nobody's ever told them they're amazing, hockey coaches, people that have the capacity to not only change lives, but save it. And if I can use my position, my privilege to have conversations that will evoke change and emotion, put me in. Use me really is what I think about all the time. And it's been just such a beautiful journey to be able to meet the humans that I have who've taught me the most. And it's always the lessons have always come, on a Lux psychiatric inpatient unit, or in the back of a Legion Hall in fucking Drumheller, when some, indigenous woman is saying to me, like, just a second, that is not how you say the name of this treaty territory. And I was like, oh my God, like, those are where the greatest lessons of all time have come. And so like being able to knowing that we're wired for connection, the amount of people I get to hug in a year. So I'm on 100 stages a year for the last 4 years globally now. And it is the greatest gift of my life to bear witness to other people's stories, to be invited into their community. I mean, as a psychologist, this was great one-on-one, at a caseload, you can see however many people you can in a year. That was great. This is that on a magnitude that I couldn't imagine. And it's just such an honor to be asked to come into an organization, into a community, into a, Nipawin, Saskatchewan fundraiser for the women's YWCA, and then you show up and they got like all the Ukrainian women making you snacks and somebody knitted you a dishcloth. Like, and people are like, is it hard to be away from your kids? No, I'm in a Ramada with Marty drinking wine and taking home gift baskets of knitted dishcloths. Like, this is the best job that's ever happened. And so when you love your shit, when you love your work this much, I think it just the universe just keeps allowing you to do great stuff if that's the intention behind it.
Well, speaking of that, for our listeners who are seeing some of the clips, they'll see Unlonely with Dr. Jody behind you. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Oh, yes, I can.
Yeah.
So this is season 2. And listen, I am not nearly as savvy in this podcast game as you are. I speak a lot. I write. We're in the 4th book now. And I've always been amazed at people who can do podcasts well, because I think it's a platform where you can have some of the most incredible opportunities and provide a stage for people to raise their voices. And so of all the people that we sort of got to meet as we sort of doing these things, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we could create this place where everybody comes from somewhere and really demonstrate that? So that was the first season. And then the second season, we decided to call UNLONELY, because we really moved it more into having experts have a conversation around why, as this human race, we need to do better at simply looking and seeing. And it's just that gentle reminder every couple of weeks that it's like, you have everything you need to not only change the world, but save it. All I need is you. That's it. Full stop. So it's been an honor to do this season, and I think we're gonna continue. I think in the next. I don't do nearly as many episodes as you, but it's great. We're loving it.
That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Well, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. We've been so looking forward to having you. And can you tell us about some of your books? Like Feel Seen, Kids These Days, Teacher These Days. Where can people find more about you and find more about your books?
Listen, I would love your community to be a part of ours. We are on social media. JodyCarrington.com is where everything lands. And Kids These Days came out of my work with teachers and parents who are just like, have the holiest work on the planet and feel like we're all screwing it up. And I often say this, that book is friggin' good. Like every time I read it, I'm like, this is so fucking good. And then if you ever watch me with my own personal children, you wouldn't buy the book, because I wrote that thing when I was regulated. Okay. And this is just the point for most of us parents, is that we are so good. Our kids are so lucky, but in the really hard moments, we forget that. And so it's not our ability, it's our access to it. And so that was the impetus for kids. And then teachers really came out of it, really being sort of similar to it, just really wanting to have a resource for teachers who spend more waking hours with our children than us primary caregivers do in the run of a week. And we really need to care for them deeper, I think, in this next generation. And then Feeling Seen was really just a call to action for all of us who I think can change the world. And then the next one is that we're pitching in the fall is You're Not That Good. So it's going to be the permission for all of us to just get back in the game.
The minute that we got on together here, I noticed your very beautiful frilly dress or top. And I mentioned that it was very feminine. And one of the questions we love to ask our guests and get their perspective on is, from your perspective, what is feminine to you?
Oh, I love that question. And I saw that in the notes and I was like, I hope we ran out of time. Because I grapple with that so much. And I think as I sort of evolve in this place of understanding the universe, the divine feminine energy is really just this sense to me. The feminine is really, when I think about the Mother Earth, the safetiness that can call home the sense of whatever you have to bring. That's what a true feminine means to me. Is that it really is, and all of us have the capacity, all of us have the ability. I watch my husband do that with my children. I miss that the most in my father. It is the most, I think, genuine creation of safety.
I love it.
That's beautiful.
We love asking that question because we have been asking it for how many years now, and we are yet to hear an exact repetition of an answer.
Oh, I love that.
It is such a broad, personal question. Mm-hmm. We just love getting responses to how people see and how women view and live that word. Love that. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you so much.
I love it.
Well, in talking to you, you can see, Dr. Jody, that you are just like vibrant and living with your purpose. And it's such a pleasure to see. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was such an honor. Thank you.
And we would have waited another 10 years. Today is a good day. So thank you.
Thank you.
And you have been listening to
The Virgin,
The Beauty,
and The Bitch.
Find us, like us, share us. Bring all your friends. Bring all your enemies. Let's all get together Let's have some joy. Thank you so much, Jody.
Boom, nailed it.